Imagine flying down a racetrack at over 300 kilometers per hour, the roar of the engine shaking your bones, knowing that one wrong move could end your career, or your life. Now imagine doing that after doctors told you that you might never walk properly again. That's not fiction. That's Mick Doohan. From his humble beginnings in Australia to becoming one of the most dominant forces in motorcycle racing, his story is not just about speed and victory, but about resilience, grit, and the refusal to give in when life tried to break him. This is the story of a rookie who became a champion, a rider who defied the odds, and a man whose name is forever etched into MotoGP history. Stay with us as we uncover the life and legacy of Mick Doohan, because this is a ride you don't want to miss. Early life in Australia. Mick Doohan was born on June 4, 1965, in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. Growing up in the suburbs of Gold Coast, young Mick was not surrounded by luxury or professional racing circuits. Instead, he developed his love for bikes on dirt tracks and in backyards, where adrenaline and raw courage shaped his character. Like many Australian kids, Mick was adventurous, but motorcycles gave him a sense of freedom unlike anything else. By his teenage years, he had already started showing remarkable skill and fearlessness on two wheels. He wasn't born into a racing dynasty like some MotoGP stars, but he had a natural gift, an ability to push machines beyond their limits. That talent, combined with his relentless determination, set him apart from the beginning. His journey from a humble Aussie kid to the world's biggest racing stages was about to take off, and nothing would ever be the same. First steps into professional racing. Mick's professional racing career began in the mid-1980s, when he competed in Australian Superbike Championships. Unlike Europe, where the spotlight on motorcycle racing was brighter, Australia had fewer opportunities, and riders had to fight even harder to be noticed. Doohan's aggressive riding style, late braking, and incredible cornering speed made him stand out quickly. Soon, his performances caught international attention, leading him to the Grand Prix stage. Entering the world of GP racing wasn't easy. European riders dominated the scene, and sponsors often overlooked outsiders. But Mick had a fearless hunger to prove himself. Every lap he raced was a message to the world. He belonged here. He was a rookie, yes, but he wasn't here to participate. He was here to win. This early determination and refusal to be intimidated by legends of the sport laid the groundwork for what was to come. The crash that changed everything. In 1992, Doohan's life took a dramatic turn. At the Dutch TT in Assen, he suffered a horrific crash that shattered his right leg in multiple places. The injury was so severe that doctors considered amputation. For most riders, this would have been the end of the story, a career cut short before it could truly begin. But Mick wasn't like most riders. Through multiple surgeries, including an experimental procedure where his legs were stitched together to save blood flow, he clung to the hope of returning to racing. He was bedridden, fighting infection, and in excruciating pain. Yet, even as doctors doubted his recovery, Mick's mind was already on the track. His 1992 season, which had been leading toward a possible championship, was ruined, but Mick refused to let the crash define his destiny. Instead, it became the moment that shaped his legendary resilience. The painful road to recovery. Recovery was brutal. Mick Doohan spent months in rehabilitation, learning not just to walk again but to regain enough strength to ride a motorcycle at world-class speed. His right leg would never fully recover. It remained stiff, limiting his movement on the bike. Most riders rely heavily on shifting their bodies to maneuver corners, but Mick had to invent a new way of riding. He used custom brake systems on his handlebars, developed unique cornering techniques, and pushed through the agony of every lap. Each race was a test of willpower as much as skill. Pain became his constant companion, but instead of breaking him, it forged him into something stronger. The crash that could have ended Mick's career instead turned him into one of the toughest and most determined champions the sport has ever seen. First taste of victory. In 1990, Doohan had already claimed his first Grand Prix victory at the Hungarian GP. But after his crash, every win carried new meaning. His comeback victories in the mid-1990s were more than just trophies. they were statements of survival. In 1994, despite still suffering from the lingering effects of his injury, Mick fought his way into contention and finally captured his first 500 cubic centimeters world championship. It was a monumental moment. The boy from Australia who had once raced dirt bikes had now become a world champion against all odds. This victory was not just about speed, it was about courage, persistence, and rewriting the definition of what a rider could endure. Mick Doohan wasn't just winning races, he was rewriting history, showing the world that champions are not defined by setbacks but by the strength to rise again. Dominating the 1990s. From 1994 onwards, Mick Doohan entered a golden era of dominance that cemented his status as a MotoGP legend. He won 5 consecutive 500 cubic centimeters world championships from 1994 to 1998, putting him in the elite company of riders like Giacomo Agostini. His style of riding, controlled aggression, flawless precision, and unrelenting determination, made him almost unbeatable. Rivals admired his speed but feared his consistency. The NSR 500 and Doohan became synonymous with victory. Race after race, season after season, he crushed competition, often winning by huge margins. What made his dominance even more remarkable was the physical limitation he carried with him from the 1992 crash. He was essentially racing half a man down, yet outperforming fully fit opponents. This era wasn't just about Mick winning championships. It was about him redefining what was humanly possible in motorcycle racing. Rivalries and respect. Every great champion has rivals, and Doohan was no different. Riders like Alex Crivell, Kevin Schwantz, and Wayne Rainey pushed him to his limits. But instead of sparking animosity, these rivalries often transformed into mutual respect. Doohan's battles on track were fierce, but off the bike, he was known for his humility and sportsmanship. He wasn't the flashiest rider, nor did he crave the spotlight like some champions. What he wanted was simple: to win races. His no-nonsense approach earned him respect not just from his competitors but also from fans around the world. For many, Mick represented the true spirit of racing: grit, determination, and a quiet but unshakable confidence. Rivalries may have defined the racing, but respect defined the man. The champion's riding style. Mick Doohan's riding style was unique, shaped by his physical limitations. Because his right leg was nearly useless for controlling the bike, he relied heavily on his upper body and adapted braking systems. Instead of seeing this as a disadvantage, Mick turned it into his signature. His aggressive late braking and ability to maintain control under extreme pressure became legendary. Other riders studied his techniques, and engineers learned to modify bikes to suit a rider's needs because of him. His style wasn't just effective, it was revolutionary. It proved that in racing, adaptability is just as important as speed. Every time he leaned into a corner, every time he braked at the last possible second, he wasn't just racing, he was proving that limits exist only in the mind. The final championship push. By 1998, Mick had already won 5 consecutive championships, and he seemed unstoppable. That year, he secured his final title, once again dominating the grid. Fans and experts began to wonder, how many more championships could he win? Could he surpass even the legendary Agostini? At that point, Doohan was still at the peak of his powers, his name etched into every conversation about greatness. His winning streak had transformed him from a rookie into a household name in motorsports. But fate, as it often does in racing, had another cruel twist in store. Just as Mick seemed poised to extend his dynasty, another crash would end his career in a way no one saw coming. The crash that ended it all. In 1999, during practice for the Spanish Grand Prix in Jerez, Mick Doohan suffered another devastating crash. This time, the injuries were too severe to overcome. His leg was once again shattered, and despite his warrior-like will, doctors and his team knew that a comeback was impossible. The MotoGP world mourned, not just because a great rider was stepping away, but because the sport was losing a champion at the height of his power. Mick announced his retirement, closing the curtain on one of the most extraordinary careers in racing history. His departure left a void, but his story was far from over. Even off the bike, Mick Doohan's influence continued to shape the sport. Legacy of a legend. What defines a legend? Is it the number of titles, the trophies, or the victories? For Mick Doohan, it was all of those, and more. His story wasn't about perfection. It was about survival, adaptation, and domination in the face of impossible odds. 5 consecutive world championships, a comeback from near amputation, and a career that reshaped MotoGP forever. Riders like Valentino Rossi and Marc Márquez openly acknowledged the path Mick paved for them. His unique style, his resilience, and his dominance turned him into more than just a champion. He became an icon. Today, whenever the conversation turns to the greatest riders of all time, Mick Doohan's name stands tall. Not just as a MotoGP legend, but as proof that true champions are forged in the fire of adversity. Mick Doohan's journey from rookie to champion is more than a racing story, it's a life lesson. It's about never backing down, even when the odds are stacked against you. It's about turning pain into power, and setbacks into comebacks. His story tells us that greatness isn't handed to you, it's earned, lap after lap, fight after fight. If Mick's journey inspires you, take that spirit into your own life. Push past the challenges, embrace the risks, and never let obstacles define your destiny. Because as Mick Doohan proved, champions are not the ones who never fall, they're the ones who always rise again. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the life of Mick Doohan, hit that like button, subscribe for more MotoGP legends, and share this video with fellow racing fans. Together, let's keep the spirit of motorcycle racing alive.